let's link up with Krista on the FYX. She's a wellness coach with a focus on mental well-being and physical strength.
What is up, guys? It is Coach Krista, and I'm here coming at you for our very first episode of 2021, episode number 3 of the FYX. Let's link up. This week, we are linking up with my mentor, new friend, pal and confidant, Miss Cristianna May. Cristianna is the founder and host of her amazing podcast, which is exactly how we met through our mentor, Chase Tuning. Glow Up Cult, and it is your go-to podcast for all things aesthetics and beauty. For those of you who have been following along my journey, you guys know that I am dabbling into the world of Botox fillers, facials, and as Cristianna puts it, inner beauty as I head into 2021, probably even 2022, but we're going to put it out into the airwaves and manifest that shit and hope that the future of Wellverse begins in 2021. The groundwork has been laid and we're going to fucking go for it. So come along the ride as I start to introduce you guys to some of the key players, influencers, mentors, investors, and the like in the future of the brand. And Cristianna is certainly a mentor of mine as someone who for the last 10 years, and homegirl's not even 30 years old, has been a powerhouse in the beauty and aesthetics industry, as well as the health industry. 5 years as an advocate for health and wellness, and then another 5 more recently as a practice manager for multiple medical spas and aesthetic centers right outside of the DC area, both of which she has grown to multi-million-dollar businesses, which is just pretty damn incredible. I'm so excited for everyone to get a chance to take a peek at this episode. We talk about so many different topics professionally, but also personally. Cristianna has an amazing story and just has been on for the most part of 2020 and even prior, a journey of self-discovery and this idea of tapping into your power as a female, as she puts it, being a goddess. And she truly is just a beauty queen, both inside and out. And I'm so impressed with her level of intuition and her ability to tap into her gut. And I think that's something that will really shine through as you check out this episode. So if you guys enjoy what you hear today, don't forget, please subscribe to the FYX, tell your friends about it, post about it on social media, and be sure to check out Cristianna herself. All of her resources are linked down in the show notes of today's show. And you can check her podcast out right here on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you are listening with Glow Up Cult. Have a great day, y'all.
Kind of tell me how you got started. Like, what's your background? What made you want to go the beauty route? Like, was it a love for makeup? Like, where does it all begin for you?
Well, it's so funny. So I always call this my accidental career.
Okay.
Because I was in a multi-level marketing company at one point in my life. It was all about skincare. And I did it just to make some extra money. I didn't really think anything of it at the time. I wanted to bring some extra revenue and to pay some bills. And so I heard of a girl. She was like, yeah, I got my product into a plastic surgeon's office. And I was like, wow, that's a brilliant idea. And so I, tried to, push my way like how she did, and sell my product to these practices. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to apply for a job and I'm going to infiltrate that way, And lo and behold, 7 years later, here I am, growing multi-million-dollar businesses. And I never even got a chance to sell the product that I wanted to the office because I was just so focused on.
No way.
So I always call it like my accidental career because it's like, I never even thought I would love this industry so much. I was doing it. I had like a motive behind it. And so I love this industry so much. And just to touch on what you were saying before, yes, there's so many treatments out there. There's so many things that you can do. But at the end of the day, if it's making you feel better about yourself, then you should do it, and there's nothing wrong with it. And I think if people always, are snarky towards you or, have judgment towards beauty, it's ridiculous because at the end of the day, I use this actually with this line in my last podcast, but it's like the reason why, beauty is all around us. God, whether you believe in God or not, he created eyes, and eyes are meant to see beauty. So, like otherwise we wouldn't have eyes. We wouldn't be seeing anything. We'd be like that that Netflix show
I love that.
where they're all blind. Yeah, exactly. I know. So that's a little bit about me. My podcast is called The Glow Up Cold, and I talk everything about aesthetics. We talk mainly a lot about inner and outer beauty, and a lot having to do with mental health, because I know that this industry, and especially the beauty industry, there's so much mental health that goes into it. And Chris, I'm sure you remember as a little girl flipping through Cosmopolitan magazine, flipping through, Sex magazine, and comparing yourselves to these girls. And they always talked about, it's so awful, what girls have to go through. But look at the girls now, what they have to go through.
Right. Oh my God, I can't. I'm like so afraid to have a daughter someday. Like it's going to be so hard to have to teach her to like not look at other people like that.
Exactly. And I think that, I love that now we're starting to realize that there's beauty in everything, and it doesn't matter what size you are. You're beautiful. Krista, you're a gorgeous woman. You're a fucking boss, babe. You really are. And I just think you exude so much energy, and people feel that. And
Thank you.
No matter your shape or your size, you're just your inner beauty, and obviously your outer beauty because you're gorgeous, but your inner beauty is just like what really makes you truly beautiful,
Thank you. And I agree with that. Like, look, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I'm actually at my heaviest weight that I've ever been in like 4 years. And this is like the happiest I've been too. So like I did an in-body scan the other day, and I was like, I'm annoyed by this. But at the same time, I know the cause, because I know how I've been eating. And like, I recently started dating again. And one of my friends and I were talking about this. It's really hard to be skinny when you're dating, because you keep going out to dinner and then you want to have a drink. And you're like, oh, damn it. And so I've been doing this like 30-day challenge where I'm not drinking alcohol, among other things, like working out and 10 pages in a book and all that jazz. And like, because I'm also launching a business, what's gone by the wayside? The fucking working out. And I'm like, I hate to say that as a fit pro, but I'm just trying to be honest. And I've had to like start this challenge over like 4 times because I've skipped a workout. Like there's just so many other things on my plate. Like I'll be like, I'll justify it. Or then like, to bring it back to beauty, like I just got my eyebrows tattooed, so I can't work out for 48 hours. So I was like, I just have to go for a walk, which is still exercise. But
it's the authenticity that you're bringing. And I think that's what people probably resonate the most with you, is that you're being authentic with them. And nobody's fucking perfect,
No. Oh my God, no.
I didn't even go to the gym for 2 weeks just because I was so busy and
and tired.
Yes, and I posted on my story, like, it's okay, ladies. Like, if you don't go to the gym for 2 weeks, it's not a big deal. And that's been a hard lesson that I had to learn for so long, because I used to do competitive bodybuilding. I was a
okay.
So obviously, like, the gym was like my life. 24/7.
All the cardio, baby.
7 days a week at the gym. And if I didn't go to the gym, I would feel shitty about myself. It's just like, it's okay. You got to live your life and do what you want to do.
Totally. You told me that and I forgot about that. I think it's just like, I've gotten to a point where now I'm like, okay, I got to start scheduling my workouts just as much as I schedule. Like I'm trying to redesign a little bit and like take a cue out of Chase, who, for those of you who don't know, that's our podcast coach. Like on Mondays, he doesn't take meetings. So I started doing that as of yesterday. Game changer. I like crushed so much. I prepared for a meeting with the consulting agency that I shared that deck with you. And like, I knocked that out in like 10 minutes and it was 6 pages, but it was just because like, I felt so good about everything else I'd accomplished earlier in the day that I'm like, all right, now I need to have more discipline to like incorporate this into my workout schedule too. I listened to a podcast last night, like the little 10 minutes that, do you know Brendan Bouchard? He does the whole like high performance habits of leaders. And yeah, you should listen to his podcast. It's good. And they're really short. It's just like 3 or 4 tips to do XYZ. And one of the things that he said was schedule your workouts, not at the time you feel obligated, but at the time that it's going to help you perform your best. So in his case, what he does is the following. He does like, I forget exactly what it was. It's something like 20 minutes on the elliptical, 10 minutes lifting weights, chest press, bench press. And then he goes home and has to lay down for 20 minutes after he showers. After that, he's like fucking on fire. Like
What?
he feels optimized for the day. So like don't work out when it feels like an obligation, work out when it's going to optimize who you are, which I just thought was super interesting. So yeah, like I was saying, I think it's really interesting that like it's very easy in your head to justify those things, but then at the same time, I'm like, I'm super happy. So like, if I told you what I weighed, you'd be like, no way. But I do have a lot of muscle, so it's fine, and I feel good, and I feel happy.
I see your videos. I mean, you're doing a lot of push-ups, a lot of pull-ups.
Yeah,
So trust me,
yeah, you know,
get it. I
yeah,
know.
you know. But yeah, so like first, let's kind of dive into like, I guess you told us how you got into aesthetics. Tell me what your day looks like with your job. Like, what are you responsible for in terms of, are you managing the offices? Are you managing the spas? Are you overseeing the estheticians? Like, what is your role in the function of a med spa?
So I wear many, many hats. I'm a jack of all trades at my office. And I feel like as the office manager and the practice manager, you do have to be kind of like a multiple hat wearer because you have to insert yourself in places where maybe you're needed. And so basically my day looks like, I go in and, I make sure that, my team is all set for the day. Typically I would, in a perfect world, I would like to do like a little huddle in the morning, but not everybody works on the same schedule. So I always do like a little text in the morning. Hey team, this is our goal for the day, go over all of that stuff just so that we're all on the same page. And so when you give people goals, it makes them more motivated, and it's just like, I mean, it seems so like stupid to say that out loud, but it's
It's
not.
so true, though. I worked on commission in the fitness industry, and I told someone today, like, I actually made more money in my first fitness job than I did at Bank of America.
I know it's crazy. And so I do that. And then pretty much my day looks like managing. We also have a salon at the office. So I'm managing not only the medical staff, the front desk staff, and I'm also managing the salon.
Wow.
So it's a lot.
Probably a lot of personalities. I'm going to put that one in my back pocket.
Yes, it's a lot of personalities for sure. Especially, stylists, they're artistes,
Yep.
they're painting and that's their job and that's their passion. And then the rest of my day looks like just pretty much managing the schedule, making sure, I'm giving out quotes and selling to patients. It's making sure that we're making our quota for the day. So I can put food on the table for myself. And then the rest of my afternoon really just focuses on social media and like really bringing and driving in that business.
Okay.
A little bit about what I do at the office.
Very cool. And what would you say of all the hats you wear? Do you have a favorite?
I would say probably my favorite is being in the actual medical spa area, just because that's where all the action is. I get to talk to the clients, I get to connect with them. I'm a people person. I love talking to people. And so sitting behind a desk some days where I'm just like really just doing a lot of like admin work or like social media, it kind of gets like monotonous, especially like when you're creating the social media schedule, that's a little boring.
Yeah.
But when I get to create the social media, obviously like that gets my juices flowing and, when I'm down there and, taking photos and all of that stuff. So I would say, being with my team and being with the clients, that's my favorite. I want to feel everybody's energy.
Cool. No, I love that. And to backtrack a teeny tiny bit, I forgot to ask you my infamous question that I ask on all of my podcasts, which is, what is your go-to coffee order? And if you have more than one, or if you drink tea, that's also okay. Some people like to tell me what they like to make at home. And then other people like to tell me like home and out or just out.
Okay. So I will tell you both home and out. So
Perfect.
I have given up coffee.
Okay.
I wouldn't say 1000% given up coffee. There are some days I'm like, I just need a coffee today.
Yeah. Yeah.
But normally I make traditional ceremonial matcha in the morning. And I whisk it with intention into my matcha. And so that when I drink it, I'm drinking all those good energy and vibrations.
All the good juju.
Yes, exactly. And so I typically do coconut milk with it. So I'll just have make myself matcha coconut latte in the morning. And then I'll go walk my dog. But then if I'm going out, typically I'm not a Starbucks person at all. There's this place that's near me. It's called Weird Brothers Coffee. And they make a really, really good organic matcha. It's amazing. And then if I do ever do coffee, it's usually just like an Americano.
Simple, straight up.
So
Get them
I'm
shots, girl.
for sure.
Nice. I like it. Matcha's good. You're my first person to have a different kind of order. I was joking with my last couple of guests. Everyone's been so boring, like except for one. It was black coffee or cold brew. And that's fine. But like, come on, let's get creative here. So yeah, let's jazz it up for sure. So I like that. I think that says about you that you're really into energy. You've used that word a couple of times in the past like 3 minutes since we've been talking. So it definitely infiltrates into all aspects of your life, including what you put into your body, onto your body. And, that's actually a great segue into like the next question of like, what do you say to people who look at things like a Botox or like a lip filler and treat it as like, oh, that's like a toxin, that's like a chemical, or even like to get more into the plastic space? Like, I don't know what your sentiment is around something like breast implant illness. Have you heard anything about that? Just kind of what your response is to that. I mean, chances are, if I had to guess, like that type of person isn't even walking into your spa, but maybe you get DMs on Instagram. There are people are like, convince me why I should do this.
I think obviously to each their own, right? And so when I tell people, when I say, Botox is a toxin, well, pretty much everything that you put in your body has toxins in it, This is a very controlled, so Botox, a lot of people don't know this, is actually one of the most studied drugs out there, the most studied drug out there ever known to man. They use Botox not only for aesthetic reasons, but they also use it for hyperhidrosis, which is excessive sweating for the underarms. You can do it in the hands and the feet. They use it for children who have tippy toe syndrome. And so it relaxes the muscles so that way they can learn how to actually walk without being on their tippy toes. There's so many benefits to it. But at the end of the day, I always tell people, do you take Advil? Do you take aspirin? Those are toxins, So I always tell people, just because what you're reading online and on social media of people having their own opinion, it's an opinion. Doesn't mean that it's a fact. And then, for lip fillers, I always tell people, if you want to make your lips fuller because you're insecure about how you look in the mirror and it's not going to get you out of bed and make you feel confident and have you do fucking awesome at your job, then do it, And as far as like the breast implant illness, yes, it's a very real thing. And so I think that's one of the reasons why I kind of started my podcast, is because I want to make sure people are informed before they make these decisions, because not a lot of times will these offices inform you of everything.
Sure.
And I get it. I work at an office. At the end of the day, they need to make money. But it also goes back to, are you making sure that you're informing your patients so they can make the right decision for them?
For them, yeah.
And so I have breast implants, and I didn't know about breast implant illness, but I would definitely have to say that I don't think I had the breast implant illness, but I definitely think my body has reacted to the implants because it's a foreign object.
It's a foreign object. Yeah, bingo.
Your body is going to reject it no matter what, and constantly reject it until it goes away. And that's just your body doing its job, right? So I think that my body definitely has been affected by it. And I think that it affects other people more serious than others, like especially with autoimmune disease. Or
yes. I have a friend who had an autoimmune, then she got BII, game over. She was a mess.
Exactly. And so with the breast implants, especially, when you get the silicone ones, they're constantly condensating.
Okay.
So you're constantly getting that leakage of silicone.
Okay. Makes sense.
Why you're having the BII. Not a lot of people go with the saline because they don't feel natural. They feel like just like a water balloon.
Yeah.
They're more likely to pop, and you would have to get them redone again.
Yeah.
So yes, they're safer for your body as far as like the popping. Now there's still silicone wrapped around the actual saline, so you have less risk involved in it. But at the end of the day, I chose to have it's called a gummy bear implant. And if you look at a gummy bear, it's all squishy and soft. Yeah. That's what the implant looks like on the inside. And it feels very, very, it's the most natural feeling one. Okay. And I got that because I'm not going to have a lot of that condensation because of the water, the silicone in the actual, it's more gel-like. Now I'm sure.
Did you feel like your doctor educated you enough for you to make that decision? Did you do your own research? Were you already well into your experience with being in the industry?
So I got this done before I was in the industry. And so
Okay.
my mom had, my mom back in the 90s, she got breast implants, like before breast implants
Yeah,
were
we're a thing.
thing. And so my mom, being a nurse and everything, she was the one that really pushed me to do a lot of research. So thankfully, if I didn't have her, I would have just gone in blindly and not really know what to do and who to ask and where to find the right questions and answers. But I would say no, my doctor didn't really inform me a lot about that. But the one reason why that I picked my doctor was because he was the best in my area, and he had the most natural looking ones. It was every before and after. It was just like beautiful work after beautiful work. And that was the reason why I picked him. He did inform me about some other things, problem like breast implants. It's better to do it under the muscle than over the muscle because it lets the tickling effect and everything. It's going to look more natural, and you're going to have less sagging over time. So those are some things that he informed me about. But as far as like all that other stuff, I had to do my own research on it.
Good to know. Yeah. I mean, it seems like everybody's had different experience. I have a friend who's in med school right now, and she is going to be an orthopedic surgeon. So she spends a lot of time in surgery. And I told her, I'm like, I'm curious about this. Like, ask your attendings, like, what do they say? And she just said it's super subjective and there's a lot of research on it, but it's like really up to the person. And like, unfortunately, it's tricky because it's so like a lot of the symptoms are just very like, there's no proof that it's like a direct correlation even. Like forget causations because you're not supposed to make those in science, but like even the correlation is really tricky. So I just figured I would ask you that question because it's become a hot topic.
Yeah, it's like a ghost disease. And that's the same thing with like Lyme's disease.
Yes.
You can't track Lyme. You can test for it, and even though you may have it, it could come back negative, or if you don't have it, you come back positive with it. So it's one of those things where people's intuition becomes stronger than the actual science behind it.
Totally. Now let's get into the whole like bodybuilding and how that type of competition breeds. You got to go there. And you knew I was going to ask you this question. And it's like, I've been asked a lot of times, do a show. And I know for my own sanity, I could never do it. I mean, maybe like it would be cool to kind of do it now when I'm super busy for the sake of like maintaining the discipline, because I think it certainly teaches you that. But one, what made you get into it? Two, how long did you do it for? And three, what was your experience like? Did that breed some of your desires to get into cosmetics without realizing it? Like now that you look back? Yeah. Unpack that.
So I started doing it when I was 19 years old.
Okay.
I didn't do it for the right reasons. I did it for somebody else at the time. That's the type of women that he liked.
Okay.
So I was conforming to a type of person that he wanted me to be, not something that I wanted to be. But at the end of the day, I'm so thankful and so grateful for the experience. Because
how did it come up? Like, what made you think that he wanted you to do it? And did you say ex-fiance?
Fiance, yeah.
All right, we got to talk about that too.
So there's this girl that was on the cover of Muscle magazine. Her name is Diana Dahlgreen.
Okay.
And she's hot, by the way. She's smoking. She was like the hottest thing, like motocross monster girl back in the day. And so he was just like so obsessed with her, and he's like, you should do that. You look like her, I think you'd be really good at it. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah. And he's like telling me, at the time I'm like 110 pounds. Like I'm literally
God. Yeah.
I am now. I'm like rail thin. And so he definitely wanted me to be this type of person looking back on it. And I loved him. So I was like, of course, like I'll do it. I think it would be fun to do it. I want to look like that too. And so I did it, and the first few years, I did it for 5 years. The first few years I loved it. After my 7th show, I was burnt out. I did 7 shows within like the first like within the first 3 years, because I was trying to become pro, trying to get my IFBB card. And it's so hard. And at the time when I was doing it, you know how many girls were doing it? Because Instagram was like completely blowing it up. I mean, a lot of girls do it now still, but I don't think there's as many nearly as there is now. Or I'm sorry, back then doing it. But it made me super strong mentally because of all of the discipline. And I was mentally exhausted, mentally drained, very, very emotional. The whole time I looked really, really good. Like, don't get me wrong. I looked lean. I was, had a huge ass. My calves were ripped. Like, obviously my ex-fiance loved that. No reason why you want me to do this.
Yeah.
So I mean, I looked really, really good, but I felt like shit, because I was eating 800 calories a day for the last 6
That hurts my nutrition heart.
and it's just and even I remember this one girl I would train for sometimes, and she was a figure competitor, and she, 3 weeks to my, she was like, oh yeah, she's like, you ready? He's like, you look like really like gaunt and like really emaciated. She's like, that's the look we're going for. And I was just like, this is not a good look. Like, I feel disgusting right now. Like, I look so fire, look. I just think that at the end of the day, I was burning myself out. And when I don't know, you might be the same way as me. I kind of feel that, but when I get into something, I really get into it,
Yeah.
and there's no
All in.
stopping.
Yep.
Yeah.
Commit. Yeah.
For the first time, if I'm going to do something, I'm all in, and I put all of my energy to that. And obviously I am on that journey now where I'm learning to balance, learning to not, yes, you can still fully commit to something, but like you were saying with Chase, Mondays he doesn't do meetings, and so you need to create those boundaries for yourself where you just take a personal day to get your shit done, or if it's something for work, if it's still work related, you're not overwhelming yourself. And when I was doing the bodybuilding, I was definitely overwhelming myself. I was working in retail at the time at Nordstrom. I was a department manager at 20 years old, and I was working 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. at night, going to work out. Then I actually did a little bit of personal training on the side. So I do some like personal training on the side. And then I would go home and eat, and I would start my day all over again. And that was 5 days a week, I mean, I was 20. Of course I could do it at the time.
Yeah.
I could do it.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for everything that I did, but now, I'm not going to put myself through that anymore. I learned to balance everything.
That's awesome. And a good realization from that too. And you hit on something that's the perfect transition into me asking you about your relationship experience. You made the point that when you commit to something, you go all in 150%. So I know how that impacted my decision to walk away from basically what was a marriage, even though it wasn't. But I want to know, how did you get to the place you were, if you don't mind sharing? This is obviously a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and I actually didn't know about you. So I would love to relate on it.
So I'm a serial monogamer.
Me too.
I just, I've been single now for the last 3 months now, 4 months. I don't know. It's been a whirlwind, but I've been in two long relationships. The first one was with my ex-fiance. We were together for 4.5 years.
Okay.
He was everything I ever wanted physically in a man. He was this 6'3" lumberjack, burly, like muscular, manly of the manly
Sexy guy. Yeah.
guy, right? And he loved me, but it wasn't the type of love that I deserved. It was, if you see a totem pole, right? All those faces on the totem pole.
Yeah.
He had his dog, his family, his friends, work, and then I was last on the totem pole, always.
And what kind of things, without getting into too much detail, if you don't want to share, what kind of things, what kind of actions or comments or situations insinuated that was solidified in your mind?
Yeah, so it was more of actions than anything. We definitely had a very strong connection to each other.
Sure.
Like to him, and he was
Yeah.
that could have been more of like a physical thing than anything, more of like lust. And I think that our relationship was all about lust than more.
Okay.
The things that he did not make me a priority. The fact that you're making three to four times the amount than I am, and I'm struggling and I'm still paying half of everything, and I'm still like giving you money and being like your sugar mama for stuff. And it's just like, I'm like 20 years old, dude. Like,
Yeah.
you're much older than me, you're making so much more money than me. It would make more sense, hey, let me spend, $200 to $300 less in rent so that way I can put it towards bills and not have to
Mhm.
rack up my credit cards, right? And so that comes down to being a very young and naive girl where I didn't speak up for myself.
Yep.
It's a learning lesson. And when he
Yeah.
asked me to marry me, I was so honored. He actually asked me to marry him in front of like 50,000 people on stage. And so it was like very overwhelming. People were screaming. I was like half drunk at the
Oh
time.
my God.
When he
How,
asked,
how did that like transpire? Did you have any idea?
I had no idea. No, I got called up on stage because they said I won a prize. And then
Okay. Were you
fiance,
at like a concert or like a show?
yeah, I was at a
Okay.
concert. And he came out and he got down on one knee and he said, "Will you marry me?" And everyone started screaming. And I
So
just,
what were you going to say? No.
but at the time I was just like honored, I was like, oh, wow,
Okay.
he's asking me to marry him. Like,
How old were you?
I love you. I was 21.
Okay.
I was 21 at the time. I was going to get married at 22. And then as time went on, I got more and more scared for my life. It wasn't because I was scared of him. It was just more of like, this is not the type of life that I want. I
Mm-hmm. Yep.
deserve so much more. I know I'm meant to do so much more in this life and to give so much more than to be barefoot in the kitchen and living in the boondocks, because that's what he wanted. And
Okay.
my mental state and my soul would not have been able to handle that. I need somebody in my life who is not going to cage me, but who's going to run with me, right? I want to
Yeah.
run with you, grab my
Yeah.
fucking
I'm smiling so big.
go. I want to feed off of you and I want you to feed off of me, and we're going to support each other and just do the damn
And
thing.
elevate.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So I met my ex-boyfriend that I just broke up with shortly right after my
Okay.
ex. And so I never really gave myself that time to heal. But he definitely, in the very beginning of a relationship, he was satisfying all my needs that I never got in my other relationship. And
Okay.
he was making a priority, but it was more of a priority of like possession, right? So it's like I had the opposite. I didn't have any priority,
That's so
no
interesting.
all. And then I went to the very opposite, where it was possession. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, you think that you love me, but you want to capture me, you want to hold me tight, you want to make me Rapunzel into the tower, and you don't want anybody to see me type of love.
Yeah, I had the opposite experience where I went from that to then my ex-fiance, who it just became like a situation of being like out of the honeymoon phase before the engagement was even over.
Right, exactly. And so I think with my last relationship, because I was already down, I think that my ex, I don't mean to talk poorly about him, because
Yeah.
I'm so grateful and taking all the life lessons and
Mhm.
I needed this, right, in my life in order to grow and to get me to where I am now in my life. But I, he definitely was a narcissist for sure.
Sure.
And he was very controlling, and he hated himself so much that he projected his hate onto other people.
Do you think that as like an alpha female, we have a tendency to attract narcissists?
So here's the thing. So I think for so long, I have been running on my masculine energy, right?
Mhm.
And
Agreed.
I think it's because I had to. Like, from such a young age, I've always been the mom of the house. I've always taken care of. My sister jokes with me. She's like, "You were the parent of the house, right? And you were like so young." And it's because, my home life, my stepfather was an alcoholic, and my mother was in and out of the hospital because she had cancer. And, my own father, he couldn't afford to take care of me, so he lived, all the way across the country living in Vegas. And, he's living this mediocre life where he can barely see me,
Mhm.
and I love my father. We have a very, very great connection. We love each other, and I don't have any hard feelings, about anything, but I had to grow up really fast. And so I've been running on this, I have to take care of me first mode, where I've been
So
running on
was
this.
it nice for someone to finally take care of you?
Well, I've never had that
Yeah.
before.
Well, what about in like the narcissistic situation? Did it
Right,
come across that way?
oh, yeah, in the
Because I'm
very
actually surprised you gravitated towards the first person and actually put up with it. But
right.
maybe you were so used to being independent.
Yes, I was so used to being independent that it was just more of like I was just living my own life. And then I,
Mhm.
for the narcissist in the beginning, I was getting my needs satisfied. Like I was being taken care
Sure.
of and
Mhm.
I was actually like being loved, right?
Yeah.
But then when you get deeper into the relationship, I realized that my light was being dimmed. Like he was
Mhm.
truly, truly trying to make me feel like I'm crazy. And at one point, towards the end of our relationship, I got a therapist, and my therapist was like, "You're not crazy, Christiana." He's like, "This is not a healthy relationship." He's like, "If anything, you're not the one that needs therapy." He's like, "You have a very good head on your shoulders, and the fact that a therapist is telling me that, like, you're wasting your
Yeah.
time, like, use
Yeah.
it." And
Right.
I always look at everything, from a devil's advocate. I always put myself in people's shoes. And so I
Mhm.
always go to bat for my ex, and because of his mental state, because he's always playing the victim, always saying, woe is me, woe is me. Why is my life like this? Oh, I should be doing this with my life. I should be a billionaire. I should be rich. I should be this. I should be that. And I'm just like, but you need to be happy with yourself now, because if you do eventually get to that point that you want to, you're not going to be happy. And he just
Mhm.
believe me, and he was just very small-minded in that sense. He was very motivated, very like money hungry and driven. And so, I mean,
That's the tricky part. Like, that's where I feel like I don't know how to navigate that because, like, I am super motivated and, like, I financially had different visions than my ex. And he told me that and again, like, we're great friends. And I hope he listens to this and doesn't take it the wrong way, but he knows this because I've been really open about it. But it's just kind of like he was very much like, insistent that I was not grateful because like once I got what I wanted, I set a new goal and I made the bar higher. And there's so much to unpack with that. Like I think, where I was raised was very different environment than him, much more competitive of a high school. I was like the total like girl next door kind of vibe. And so I think that I just like held myself to a higher standard because of what I had accomplished by age 17, right? But then it's like how do you find a guy that can match that intensity? Because I think that's what it is. Like, it's an intensity thing. Like you said to me earlier, you're like, you give off like a very high energy. That's like the best compliment someone can give me. Like, literally somebody telling me that I am like the Energizer Bunny. Like, I will be with people who have not seen me like first thing in the morning. And if I stay at a friend's house or whatever, and I
yeah.
wake up and they're like, oh, you're like this the minute you open your eyes. And I'm like, yeah.
You're
They're like,
like,
they're like, can you like wait a second? And I'm like, no, this
yeah,
is like how I go. So yeah.
so
So what do you think about that?
what do I think about your high energy?
No, just like about your, like this idea that like with someone who can match your intensity comes these
Yeah.
like kind of major character flaws.
So it's so funny. So
And it's not a generalization, but I feel like it happens enough that I see a pattern.
So I think, yes, I think you're completely right. I think that you need to have your perfect match, but also at the same time, there's a yin and a yang to life. And so you need to find somebody that is going to be your yang to your yin, right?
Mhm.
And if you're more of that high energy partner, then you need to find somebody that is going to be more of that lower vibration, but who's going to embrace you, right?
Sure.
And that goes back to what I was saying, off of the masculinity. For so long I've been driving off this masculine force because I've been forced to.
Mhm.
Um, so lately I've been really tapping into my feminine, not my feminine side, but my feminine energy. So that
Okay.
way I can manifest the type of men that I want in my life, right?
Sure. Sure.
So the type of men that I want in my life are people that want to take care of me. Obviously, like I'm an independent woman. I'm not going to ask money for a man ever.
No. No.
I'm saying, but I'm saying as far as like who's going to be the earth underneath my feet while I'm the water flowing through the earth, right? Like I want the man to be cradling me like the soil of the earth, and I'm going to be ever flowing through
That's
him.
so cool. Beautiful.
That's just how I want my future relationship. I am by no means ready for a relationship at all. I have so many
How
things.
long did you date this last guy?
5 years.
Shit, you're a serial monogamist. and like, okay, to backtrack just a tiny bit, because I have more questions, because this is the best part of this whole situation is like, how'd you break up with your fiance and how did the conversation go?
So for the last 6 months of my fiance and I were together, I kept talking to him and giving him, clues and notes, handwritten notes. So I'm very good with my words in writing. I'm very like bad, like in the moment, like especially to the opposite sex or someone in a relationship, because I feel like I never really had a voice. And that just goes back to like my own childhood trauma. So I always felt better like writing. So I've always journaled my whole life. And so I would give
Cool.
my ex-fiance notes about how I feel. And the last one, I basically told him, I can't do this anymore. We need to call off the wedding
Okay.
and need to focus on ourselves. And who knows, later down the road, maybe we can work things out. But right now, I'm not a priority and I can't do this anymore. And he begged and said he'll change. But at the end of the day, people don't change. They are exactly who they are from the very beginning. Yes, they can have some changes to them, but at the end of the day, they are who they are to the core. Unless somebody has an aha moment with Jesus, I really truly don't believe people change so drastically and significantly like that, especially not within 6 months before the wedding.
So how far did you get into the planning?
6 months. My family and I, we put over like $50,000 into the wedding. So we lost.
I lost like probably close to 20 G's. So I'm with you there. For everyone who works in the wedding industry, I get that like COVID has wreaked havoc on you, but at the same time, like you guys are making money hand over fist, and it's just not cool.
Yes. And so with my ex-boyfriend, there was some infidelity in the relationship. And this isn't a God thing. If people don't believe in the universe or energy or God, like, then I don't know what else is going to prove to you that there is a higher power up there. So my ex, he got caught on a dating app while he was in LA. And
Oh my gosh.
all of the people that I know from LA, like I'm from LA, right? Out of everybody that I know there, my own sister finds him on the dating app.
Oh my God.
And he tries to blame it and say, a friend made it for him. It's a new account. And my sister, she's like, no. She's like, I'm on this dating app. She goes, if it's a new account, it would tell you new user. It would say when they made the account. And, he used pictures that, I took him when we went on our trip to Bali. It was crazy. And that was just like the final straw. And I had been meditating pretty much since COVID, since like the quarantine. I've been meditating and manifesting in my life to bring my relationships to the surface and to expose.
Okay.
And I got exactly what I wanted, because I just feel like the last year of my relationship, it was really, really bad. And so it was more of, I was holding on to my past and running from myself and not being okay with being with me and loving me first, because I wanted to give my energy into somebody else versus facing me and looking at myself in the mirror, right? So I broke it off and I haven't heard from him since.
Well, good for you. And I mean, like, what did that transition look like from your ex-fiance? Like, because that's the place I'm in right now, right? And like, there are definitely some contenders who have come into my life that I'm like, I'm interested in you, but I'm also very like, have a lot of trepidation navigating the conversation. Like, I would love to pick your brain on this one. I have so much anxiety around telling a guy that I was engaged, and it's all me. It's totally in my head because I've done it like 10 times now and it's fine. And a lot of the people I've been dating too, like know me. So I haven't had to explain, at least like the people that have been more meaningful. But there's like Hinge and those apps. And sometimes it comes up super naturally in conversation. And other times I just wait to see if I'm even going to meet them in person. But like most of the time, the response is always good for you. That's fucking ballsy, like respect. But I have this like irrational fear in the back of my head that they're going to be like, oh, this girl was engaged for almost 2 years. Like she clearly is like confused, psycho, doesn't know what she wants. Like even just yesterday, I was talking to this guy and a friend of mine knew him and he knew my friend. And they both had awful things to say about the other person. I mean, like fucking awful, like bad shit. And I said to the guy, I was like, oh, I asked my friend if she knew you, whatever. And like the minute I said that, he was like, what are you like going around vetting me against all these other people? And I was like, honestly, yeah, like the world is pretty fucking small. He has not texted me since and I could care less. Like, sorry, but you're one of like 5 people in the rotation.
You don't even want to deal with somebody like
right. And like the things that the friend was like bringing up as red flags were like pretty large ones, like materialism, womanizing, like very large things. And probably narcissistic, but it's not like they had nice things to say about her either. And like they were really rude accusations. And like she's not my best friend, but like I know her well enough to send her a text and be like, yo, what's the good word here? And so my question for you is like, did you have those same fears? Did you know your boyfriend? Like, how did that all like play out?
Yeah. So when I broke up with my ex-fiance, I definitely was ashamed for sure. And my boyfriend, he was actually friends with my ex-fiance.
Okay.
So it was more of a comfort too.
Yeah.
And then I knew he always had a thing for me.
Okay. Do you think you like tapped into that a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I knew that he liked me. We always had really good chemistry, but that's what it was. You know, it's
Okay.
all like that really nice flow and that energy and like we like that banter back and forth and that playfulness we always had with each other. But I never thought of it like anything. But obviously, like, you know, he had been pretty much like waiting for 4.5 years.
Do you think he like thought that something was going to fall apart? Like, did you guys ever talk about that? Or did you keep it separate?
We kept it separate for sure. I'm a very loyal person. And so when I'm in a relationship, I'm all in the relationship.
Yeah, that's why I asked you, like, how did it feel to walk away from that? Like, I couldn't handle it. I was so embarrassed.
It was more of like shame than anything. But I knew that I was making the right decision for myself. But I think at the end of the day, if people are going to judge you for being in love, then go fuck yourself.
Yeah, seriously, like a big fat middle finger.
Yeah, I mean, just if you and that's the thing though too is like people actually really don't care.
No, it's a false sense of self. Like we all have this. I was trying to talk to my mom about this today and she thought I meant it in like an egotistical way. It's not. It's just like 2020, if there was a year to make people realize that. This came up on another one of my podcast episodes. It's like people have so many other problems. They give zero shits about yours.
They honestly, they don't care. And I'm just going to talk about this because I just feel comfortable with you talking about it. That's the same thing with having sex with people, right? People are so in their head when they're having sex. But at the end of the day, when I'm having sex with somebody, I'm feeling myself, right?
That's so true. I never thought about it like that.
Yes, I'm trying to make the other person feel good, but I'm so feeling myself in the moment that I don't really give a fuck if you look, you know, skinny, fat, if you have hair on your shoulders or if you have something in your tooth, like nobody's paying attention to that.
No.
It's all about this like head game and you have to take your ego out of the way and kill it. Kill your fucking ego.
Yes.
Die. We need the ego in order to survive on this earth and in this world that we're in right now in the dimension, but you need to check it and don't let it control you because you're not going to grow as a human if you're constantly letting your ego get ahead of you, right?
Totally.
You're in control of Krista,
right?
Not
And
So,
you're in control of Christiana. And do you feel like have you ever tried to have these conversations with either the people that you were in these serious relationships, or you like don't think they could wrap their head around it?
no, I mean, I think with my ex-fiance, I was too young,
Yeah.
I was
Older than you?
I was 19, 19. I guess I was going to be 23 when I was going to marry him. Yeah, so I was 23 when I was going to marry him. I thought I was younger, but yeah, I was with him from 19 to 23.
Mhm.
And
Was he older than you?
yeah, he was 3 years older than me.
Okay.
And so at the time, I was just really focused on my career and again, running off of that masculine energy to try and take
Sure.
myself and build a life. So that way, like I work hard now, play hard later. And that was like my mantra.
Mhm.
Whereas like now I'm like, I'm living life. I'm obviously like focused and a very driven person, and I have goals and dreams, but I'm not going to kill myself anymore. But I think with my ex-boyfriend, I definitely did. I was becoming more enlightened and becoming more into myself and becoming more comfortable with Christiana that I would have these conversations with him, but he was just very closed-minded. There were some points where I would feel like I would like, wow, I actually like I broke through. This is crazy. Like I'm gonna let
Mhm.
him digest it. I'm not gonna overwhelm him because he was very like a stressful person.
Okay.
He got overwhelmed very easily and just he couldn't handle life. And I think that goes back to how he was raised. Mom and dad are always there to pick up the pieces. And so he never was taught to learn with the consequences and learn how to deal with life and stress. And I think it's very sad because he has so much potential, right? But at the end of the day, you can't fall in love with potential.
No, you can't. I think
And
that's
that's
exactly was me. Like I could see that there was this part of this person that like really wanted my lifestyle. And like, I mean, down to like, oh, you're a personal trainer, you get discounts at Lululemon. That's very nice. To
right.
living with me, even though it was against his parents' wishes, to buying me an engagement ring that he definitely didn't want to spend the money on. And it's like, I was fighting so hard to like, I'm such a fixer. Like my
Right.
podcast has like a duality to that. It's like the fix in terms of like get your fix, but it's also like I fix people. And I wouldn't be in my career. Like literally everyone says to me, like, you have this uncanny ability to leave people better than you found them.
Right.
So much so that I have like people in my life who consider me as strangers, they like notice it because it permeates into everything that I do. And I was on another podcast with a good friend of mine who I hadn't seen in like 3 years. We shared some jobs in common. And he said to me, he was like, I know I'm preaching, like saying this to you because you can relate, but it's very hard as the style of like, I'm definitely an empath, but not in the sense of like feeling your feelings, more in the sense of like wanting to take your problems on and like control them for you.
Yeah, for sure.
And this friend said to me, he was like, I know you're going to relate to this, but like sometimes we take our wanting to fix too far to the point where it's like a matter of you forget that those people need to struggle because they need to go through the bad life experience to learn. But at the same time, it brings up to your point about what you just said about like your parents always being there for you. I've definitely had that from my mom and dad. They've always been there for me. Like they really stepped up in this situation when I was just fucking distraught.
Right.
But at the same time, I also saw because I've defied my parents a lot, like they haven't been happy with my career choices. Like they think I'm too high risk, like whatever most people do.
Right.
But I've also seen like the bad way that like in my ex-fiance's life, I felt that his like reliance on his parents was coming from a place of like obedience because that's what he was taught as like the Southern way. Like I joke when I say this, but I don't think I'll ever date a Southern man again. Sorry for all the homies out there who think they have a shot. If you are
No chance.
the Mason Dixon line, you're fucking out. I can't do it. Like I just there's maybe like one exception to the rule, but I literally can't think of one. And it's this fucking mama's boy mentality. And I told him this. So if he's listening, he will hopefully laugh. But like just like the relationship became me, his mom, and him. And wedding planning was a nightmare. Yeah. Like it was just so like this is a girl from New Jersey who's super fucking outspoken and I can't talk to her because she gets offended too easily. No, I'm not offended. I'm just speaking my mind. That's it.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. I mean, I think that at the end of the day, Krista is going to find a man that is going to harness her and hold her and let her be her own woman. And that's the type of man that you deserve. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, like I think that's a good word. Like harness is like such a big part of it, because I think in my situation, it was a matter of like, I went from the narcissist, and I've actually tried to make peace with him recently. And he at first was like so glad I reached out, and I reached out to him for like business reasons. But then he was like super mad because I asked him to meet in person, and he pushed the whole thing on me and was like, I don't think it's a healthy idea for us to meet. And I'm like, you're just fucking bitter that I've had another relationship since and you haven't moved on. Like, come on. And I was like, I'm not going to push you. And then he told me that I made some comment that was hurtful, and I literally couldn't even remember what it was, because like he treated me like shit. He controlled what I wore, how I talked, what I did with my career. Like it was very manipulative.
Yeah.
And I got an apology out of him 2 weeks ago. And I was like, wow. Like, I think, oh, that's what I said. I told him that it was like good closure, because like all I wanted was an apology for his manipulation. Like he always said he was sorry for the breakup, but he wouldn't like pinpoint like what did it for me. And that's what it was. And so he literally texted me back, and he was like, oh, so you just like text me because your therapist told you to? And like, that's all you're trying to get from me? I'm like, no, I was just trying to be friends again. But like, obviously this hit a nerve. So like, you need therapy. And he told me he had been depressed the whole time we were together. But I mean, I'm not even like necessarily asking a question, but at this point, it's just kind of like, it's that idea that like I went from such control that I thought like in your case, like the healthy would be the polar opposite. But then it got to a place of like my ex knew that he couldn't rein me in. So he wouldn't really want to give his opinion, because he knew in my head I was just going to fucking do it anyway. And he admired that from afar. Like we met at the gym, and he told me that my work ethic was what attracted him to me. Because like I'm the type of person who will do burpees in between sets of deadlifts. But like it goes back to, and like I bring this up on every episode, but if you haven't read Matthew McConaughey's new book, Green Lights, it's so good.
Is it?
Yeah, his life motto is this: less impressed, more involved.
Yes.
Like think about that. And it's like, I think my ex was so impressed with me, but it made him just like admire. Like I even think like to take Matthew's sentiment a little bit further, I would say like less admiration, because impressed like kind of means like you're a little bit jealous. And I don't think it was like a jealousy thing. I think it was just like sheer like, whoa,
Yeah.
you can do that.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, that's a very powerful statement.
Mm-hmm. He calls it like his bumper stickers.
Well, I resonate with that so much because it's so true. It's like you get into a relationship where it's just like you are admiring the other person because you're just so in awe of them, right?
Yep.
They make you feel that way. But are you involved, right? Are you making it? Are you trying to be involved in that person's life? And same goes back to, with you or me, am I going to be admiring this person from afar, or am I going to be involved? And that's been a very big lesson for me right now, is making sure that I go into relationships or while I'm dating right now and go into a detachment, right? Not attached, go into with complete detachment and just see these people for who they are. Because again, people will show you exactly who they are from the beginning. There are no fantasy versions of people.
It's kind of like, I don't know if you've heard this stat before, but someone told me a couple months ago when I was trying to make a job transition, because I thought I wanted to go back to corporate America, and I think I was like fucking smoking crack. I don't know. But they said to me that you can tell if a job is right for you within 21 days of working there.
Right.
And the employer should be able to say the same. So if we have less of a stigma around commitment, like we would put people on a like 30-day hiring probationary period, and we'd probably have more effective employees. And as a result, probably have more effective companies like from the top. And I think the same should be true in a relationship. Like the other aspect that I didn't touch on is religion became like a really big polarizing component of the relationship and where we stood on it. I'm spiritual, I'm Catholic, but I'm not going to use Jesus as a means to be an excuse. Like to say that if problems occur in my life, that it's just not what God intended for me. It's a double-edged sword, because I do think that God had a plan in the sense that like I was not supposed to be with this individual. So like he pushed me to not be with him. But at the same time, someone literally told me to my face, and I do believe this to an extent, I don't want to be fucking worshipped. But somebody said to my face that they did not love me more than anything in the world because they had to love God more in order to love me. Like, I don't know how you look someone in the eyes and say, answer that question. Like, I will never erase that like energy or that expression. I was like, do you love me more than anything in the world? And the answer was just a flat out no. That stung. And that was like a turning point for me, and like really understanding like how this person viewed his relationship in like a spiritual capacity, and where I fell, like that totem pole thing that you were giving the example of. Same exact thing. Like the hierarchy, like, and honestly, I was below his mom. And he probably doesn't like hearing that, but I told him to his face. And recently, because we're friends, if you don't fix that shit, you're going to have a problem with your wife for the rest of your life. Sure.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you're marrying your wife. You're not marrying your mother. And if you want to marry your mother, then go do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Whoever you
want. Right. She's not going anywhere. So it's like, I don't know. But girl, this has been awesome. I'm so glad we kind of took this route. I thought we were going to talk more about aesthetics, but hey, it's all good. We'll have to have another. I'll come on your podcast and we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
You can like teach me everything I need to know as a med spa newbie.
Aesthetic cult for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And then, so at the end of every one of my episodes, I like to do a little lightning round. I don't know what's going to come out, so just let it ride. Yeah. So here we go. Give me like 45 more seconds of your time. As you probably are aware, lightning rounds are quick and we want to be fast and just the first thing that comes out of your mouth. Okay.
I'm ready.
Ready? Best cosmetic procedure.
Cool sculpting.
Why?
Because it gets rid of your fat permanently with no surgery and no downtime. I mean, who the fuck doesn't want that?
Yeah. Hey, I'll take that. Biggest life lesson that you learned from two very different relationships?
Detachment. Learning to detach and not create fantasy versions of people.
Mm-hmm. You are not your relationship. And somebody said this to me and it really struck a chord. It's not my responsibility to live up to the person that I created in my mind of me as it relates to you. And it's also not my responsibility to live up to the person of me that you created in your mind. And it's funny because, again, I'm going to go back to Green Lights and Matthew McConaughey, but he actually didn't marry his wife right away. They were together for a long time. They had 2 kids before he did it. Yeah. And his son at 3 years old asked him, "Hey, Dad, why aren't you married to Mom?" And he like kind of paused and he said he knew it was one of those moments in life where it was going to be like a defining moment, that the answer was going to make or break his son's like understanding of life and love. Yeah. And so he said, "I'm afraid to lose myself." And he was like, "Dad, are you afraid?" Like he kind of picked up on him being nervous. It's so funny what kids are so perceptive to. Yeah. And he said, like, he went to his pastor, started talking to friends about it who were in successful marriages. And he said the number one thing he couldn't wrap his head around was this. He was afraid that he was going to lose himself inside of that relationship. And like this dude journaled, this is why you should read the book. He journaled every day since age 14. And that's actually how he wrote the book. So he had worked so hard to become like the definition of who he really was in the world. And the kind of like proverbial quote that came out of that was, being married versus just living with someone. Living with someone means you're living for the present. Marrying someone means you're living for the future. And I thought that was really beautiful. And the day he got married, his wife said to him, "I don't need anything, but I need you to give me all you've got." And in a very practical and pragmatic way, he said back to her, "I didn't marry the woman of my dreams. I married the woman that's here on earth who is perfect for me." I just thought that was really cool.
Goosebumps. Oh,
yeah. So we're going to manifest that for both of us. And we're going to find that guy.
Major goosebumps right now. That's amazing.
Right? And you got to read it because he says it in his accent and it's way better.
Yeah. Like, I love it. Oh my God.
Yeah. Okay. So much for the lightning of this round, but I'm going to ask you like 3 more questions.
Okay, good.
Favorite podcast guest?
I think my favorite so far has been Trina Goodwin from.
Okay. Who is she?
She's from Skin Decision on Netflix.
Cool.
She had a total body transformation. You'll have to watch it. I'm not gonna give it away.
Shameless plug.
Yeah. So go to Skin Decision watch it on Netflix. And
Okay.
it's, I think, the first episode. Her name is Trina Goodwin. She's amazing.
Cool. Favorite book you've read in the last 6 months to a year, or maybe like favorite podcast or Audible, whatever your jam is.
The Untethered Soul.
I read that book.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah, Danica Patrick recommended it. That's where I got the idea from.
Yep. It's amazing. I read
That detachment, like definitely that theme totally is like telling you to like the goal of meditation is to observe yourself in thought.
Yep, exactly. Yep. So that's been like the book of the year for me.
Cool. I like it. It's a good one. It's like a lot to read. It's very like cerebral.
Hard read. It's a hard read.
I've only read I haven't finished it because I can only read like 10 pages at a time, and then I got to put it down and I'm like, oh wow, I got to digest all that.
Digester for sure.
Mm-hmm. Favorite cosmetics company, like makeup?
Oh gosh. I think I really love Cover FX because they're vegan and they are like hypoallergenic and everything just looks very, very natural on the skin.
Okay. If you could only wear one product for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Probably mascara.
Okay. If there's like one part of your routine in the morning, maybe as it relates to beauty, that's like a non-negotiable for you, what is it?
Non-negotiable. Meditating.
Cool. And I like that you picked something that didn't have to do with like washing your face or whatever. Yeah.
I mean, I could literally live in the forest without washing my face and doing my hair and doing all of that. But the one thing that definitely gets me started in the morning is grounding myself and meditating and manifesting what I want for the day.
Cool. Advice for somebody who's trying to get into meditation and is intimidated by it.
I would go onto YouTube and I would find guided meditations. You can literally just type in easy guided meditation. And I think more and more you practice detaching yourself from the earth, the easier that it's going to be for you. There are so many ones out there that are so good that are 5 minutes.
Like just start and make it small, you know?
Yeah. It doesn't have to be this whole thing. And people like say, oh, like I'm in my head all the time in my thoughts. I'm like, you don't think that I'm trying not to think throughout the meditation? I've been doing meditation literally since I've been 14. It's hard. It's very hard. And so I think you just got to do it. And I think it's so important to love on yourself first and just ground yourself.
Love that. Well, Cristianna, this has been an absolute blast. You're such a gem. I think that you might be bumped to the first podcast that I release because of our ability to bond over our lives. Yeah. So I have another friend that who's been through the same thing as you, and she's a vegan chef who owns a bakery. And we are recording this 2 days before Thanksgiving. So you can imagine the hype that is behind her business. But I'm excited to have her on as a guest, and I have to connect you guys. She almost got married at age 24. The guy threatened to kill himself if she left. So she left in the middle of the night with nothing but her clothes on her back, has not been back since, took her passport, her car, and just never looked back. Came home, started a business that was a part of her college experience as a pro tennis player. She just used a food processor, and the rest is fucking history, and her shit's really good. So that would be a really fun meeting for all three of us. And you should have her on your podcast.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you need to connect me with her.
Yeah, for sure. Yes. So last but not least, what's your shameless plug? Tell us where we can find you.
So you can find me on my personal social media, Cristianna May on Instagram, or you can go to the Glow Up Cult. Here's the
look at that neon. Hey.
Yeah. And so you can obviously find me on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But most importantly, thank you so much, Krista, for giving me this opportunity to know you better. You are definitely a very bright light in this world.
Thank you.
so much going for you that I'm so excited to see where you're going to go.
Oh, you're making me blush. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for your time and for waiting for me as I dealt with my technology and my barking dog and all the things. You're so patient and I appreciate that. You definitely have like that calming energy. And I feel like that's probably perfect for a med spa. So I'm sure I like to say we're products of our environment. So that makes a lot of sense. But again, if you guys love this podcast, please share it, drop it to a friend, give it a review, a like, whatever you want to do. Put it on your social media. Go check out Cristianna's pod. It's awesome. She covers way more than aesthetics. She's talked a lot about relationships on there as well. If you're somebody who's fascinated in the cosmetics world, there's so much to dissect. And I think the point that I want to drive home from the beginning of the episode is there's a lot of education to be done in this space. So she's a great resource for that. She's contributing really well in a gap in this world. And I'm excited to see all of the big things that she continues to accomplish, and we'll support each other along the way. Hope you guys have an awesome evening, morning, day, whenever you're listening to this. But go check out The Fix at my Instagram is The Fix Official Podcast or Pod. And check me out on my personal pages, which are at The Krista Huber and The Fitness Fix if you check me out on Facebook. Hope you guys have a good one. Bye.